Are you ready to scale and outsource your business?
Okay, let's go.
Welcome to the Outsourcing and Scaling Show. I'm your host, Nathan Hirsch, a show where we talk about everything Amazon, Shopify, e-commerce, and digital marketing. Let's get started. Welcome back to the Outsourcing and Scaling Show. I'm here with Jason Katzenback. Jason, how you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you very much.
For those of you that don't know, Jason is one of the founders of Amazing.com, teaching people how to sell on Amazon. Jason, we're going to talk all about that, but first I want to take a gigantic step back. What were you like growing up as a kid? Were you a rebel? Were you a straight-A student? Did you know you wanted to be an entrepreneur?
I definitely wasn't a rebel. I've always been a law-abiding person. For some reason, authority and me have always got along. It's just something registered in me. But I always like to push my limits. For me, the moment I realized that I wanted to be something different was I couldn't have been more than 10 years old. We were going on an airplane with my parents, walking through first class, and I'm asking them, why aren't we sitting here? And my mom laughing with this embarrassed giggle saying, well, we can't afford it. And me just thinking, my goodness, Mom, you and Dad work 70 hours a day. Obviously, you're doing something wrong. And at that moment, I said to myself, looking at them, looking at the people in first class and realizing, wait, they all have briefcases. I need to do something in life that has a briefcase. So at that moment, I kind of realized like working for a living wasn't the solution. So I kind of had a point at that time that I knew that I needed to do something different than what my parents were doing. But I didn't know if that was going to be going up the corporate ladder or if that was going to be doing my own business.
So did you finish high school? Did you finish college?
I did. I finished high school. I dropped out of college. When you're going through college, I've always been one of those type of people that I'm hands-on. I have to learn hands-on. And so that's how I've always taught people too, is this is what I'm doing in my business. This is how I'm running things. This is why I recommend it. I can't stand theory. For me, theory is only good if I'm going to test it and then share it. Other than that, you got to be careful because sometimes people preach theory and people think, oh, this is what I should do when they don't know if it works. For example, running Facebook ads to products on Amazon. Like so many people are losing so much money trying to just do that when it's a completely different animal. Like in theory, it works, but you got to test that out. We've done lots of testing, and what works good for some things definitely don't work for others. So you got to be careful with that. So with college, it was like, I don't get why I'm learning this stuff. Well, then what happened is after I went into the work world, started understanding how things connect, then I went back to school and I got a 4.0. So it was, and that's definitely how I've been. It's always, and the interesting thing about that, let me just, sidebar for a sec. I found this when, a lot of our students going through the Amazing Selling Machine, learning how to start a business on Amazon, where they go through the motions when they're first going through the course, but all of a sudden then they're done. And whether they're going through Amazing Selling Machine or any other program out there, it's interesting to look at them and see how much of the process they missed. And so a lot of them, I always recommend people go through the course twice, go through the training twice, because when you're first going through something, and you're talking about branding, you're talking about all this stuff, and it's like, well, right now my mindset is I just got to get a product up on Amazon, never mind branding. And it's just amazing how many times you'll see people at the end of their journey, it's like, well, your listing isn't even optimized. And they're like, oh, so they go back through the training and now they're understanding why they need to focus on these things in their listing optimization and everything. And that's how I've been. That's really, I need to be hands-on learning that way. It's not good for me just to read a book and say, okay, I'll do this now. It's like, no, I've got to be implementing it while I'm reading it. So that's who I am.
So what about after college? Well, how did you first come across e-commerce? Was there anything in between that?
Yeah, so I was working for a company called Weyerhaeuser, and when I was 23 years old, I remember I was sitting in this piece of equipment. It's called a paint booth, and it was this OSB manufacturing facility. And so I'm sitting in this paint booth. It's what they call a down day at this period of time. So we're doing maintenance on the machine, and I'm sitting there with paint up halfway up my calves, sitting in this big bucket of paint basically, and just put my head down and I'm saying, is this what I want to do the rest of my life? So at that point, it was this revelation. I remember it so quickly. And that day, I told everyone I was working with that I'd be their boss in 5 years because something had to change. They all laughed at me because I was, a smart-ass kid, 23 years old. And all of a sudden, they didn't understand that I just had a major moment in my life. And so within 3 years, I was all their boss. Instead of 5. So it was really, the power of mindset. And after that, I was able to move to the States. I was originally in Canada, but with Weyerhaeuser, I moved to the United States. They put me in a different position at a different mill with higher authority. And as I'm sitting there working my butt off, all of a sudden in 2003, the CEO at the time canceled all bonuses, eliminated bonuses from the company, saying that more or less saying you should just be happy to get your pay. That's what you're working for. And at that time, I'm sitting there looking at all these people that just put in their 8 hours max. I'm putting in all this extra effort, and I realized this is not fair. All of a sudden, a few months later in the company newsletter, we find out that the CEO got a $7.5 million stock option. Wow. Because he took away my bonuses. So at that point, I realized going the corporate ladder wasn't the right way. And so I started really looking at the internet. And I came across a gentleman named by John Reese who was teaching this course, Traffic Secrets. And that really, pulled me in at that time. That's where I decided that I would invest in going online. And so in 2005, December 12th, actually, 2005, I quit my job. And in 2006, I did $3 million online. So it was a good transition for sure. So I've been doing this now for going on 19 years. Pretty crazy, man. It's is that right? No, that can't be right. 14 years. 14 years. There you go. Yeah.
So I got into Amazon in 2008, totally different landscape. Talk a little bit about what e-commerce and Amazon was like back then.
Oh yeah. It was just so simple in so many ways where, there wasn't these fancy algorithms and it was all just straight input. You were getting clicks for so much cheaper. 2008, 2012, there was a lot of shifting going on. Google started really coming out with penguins and different things like this for updates on their algorithms. And so people that were SEOing, back in the day, you could sit there and just write one article and publish it on 20 different sites and have 20 different listings for that keyword on Google. And then all of a sudden Amazon or Google said, no, duplicate content isn't good. So now then they'd only show like 1 or 2 versions of the article. Then it was like, so people started using spinning where they just use a computer generated thing to hack this content. And what's really happened since then, social media came in, Facebook came in, our internet bandwidth started getting better. So there was easier real-time interactions and poor quality content just kept diminishing. Back in 2005, you could create a horrible website, just have a big Google ad in the middle of it, AdWords or AdSense ad, and drive traffic, and you'd get your page ranked. People would go on the page, not really get any value, so they'd click the ad, and you'd make money, and that was a way that people were making, $50,000, $60,000, $100,000 a month, some people. Obviously, that was not offering a good experience. And so right around 2008, that's when user experience really started mattering with product. I just noticed my face is beaming white. It's getting so dark. We have this thunderstorm about to happen. So just letting you know in case something comes up. But I found that, around 2008, which is interesting when you came on, it was transitioning to more social, was becoming huge. Real-time content was becoming huge, and quality was becoming huge, but also the amount of people shopping online was just skyrocketing. The percentage, originally it was like, oh, you buy online, that's scary, like that's so risky, to now, we've got that generation that's changed, so everyone's just born with, buying online, so it's just so much bigger. But the big focus has to be, at that time, I'd say quality, really making sure that you have quality content, that you couldn't build a business on hacks anymore. You couldn't like black hat, as much as people still love doing that. It was like, that's just going to be a short-lived thing. You've got to get serious. And I finally, in 2011, when I got on Amazon a few years after you did, it was just this perfect transition for me because, focusing so much on Google, doing affiliate and paid advertising, but I was always building somebody else's brand, somebody else's business, somebody else's product. And so all of a sudden when Amazon, I stumbled on that and realized, wait, I can do everything I'm doing, but now have my own physical product that's a true physical product that I have an asset, a company, a brand name, and I can do all these marketing things to build that up. And I just dropped SEO like a bad habit at that time, affiliate marketing and all that. Now I still do, obviously, and that's more from an influencer side. If there's a product that I really recommend, obviously we have relationships with affiliate marketing. But back in the day, it was just, you're basically pimping out any product that would pay you a commission. So did that make sense, Ali? I mean, I feel like I kind of went a little bit all over there.
No, it definitely did. So you become an entrepreneur, you're in the online space, you started an Amazon business. Who was your first hire and how did that go?
Yeah, I remember. That's funny. So my first hire was a customer support girl. That was in 2000. And she was really good, actually. And she stayed with us for a few years until we kind of switched gears and then parted ways. But so one of the things I've always kind of had, and I've got people like Rich Henderson, who was one of my first employees, Mike Kraninski, one of my first employees too, that are still with me. It just took time. Like so many people, like you hire someone and there's that, for me, one of the challenges with hiring, I guess, is first of all, are you doing it out of a passion and anxiety? What are you doing it out of? Because if it's just a frustrated anxiety, you got to stop and just set back and say, well, what are you hiring for? Because I know for myself, at first you hire someone and it's like, I need you to do this stuff. They're like, what? And it's like, okay, so I got to take time to show you. So now give it to them. Oh, you're going to do this right. And all of a sudden, like they're messing up. You're not checking in on them. So you got to stop for a second and realize if you're hiring someone, this is a major business decision. This is a major business investment. If you're just willy-nilly hiring because you think it's the thing to do or you're frustrated and you need help, you're going to get into trouble. It's going to cost you more money. It's not going to work out. And what's going to happen is you're going to hire people, end up losing money, and then say, oh, I don't want to hire people anymore. What you need to do, in my opinion, and what I learned is when I hired these people, it was hired to replace what I was doing, not to do things that I wasn't doing. So I was major into customer support at first. We had, obviously that's something that the two things I believed in right out of the gate is build a list and treat the customers exceptionally well. And so by me treating the customers exceptionally well, that means I had to become part of the customer support system. I was answering customer support. I was troubleshooting with people. But if you're going to scale your business, if you're going to grow your business, you can't be in your business running it. You got to be leading your business. And so what I started doing is hiring people to replace the positions that I was doing that I didn't like, but I made sure that we had written out everything we needed to know about that role before we hired it out. Now, I'm not going to lie to you and say that we've done that for every position. Sometimes, you are in the middle and it's like you see all this stuff going and you do just try to hire someone. But just interesting enough, I guarantee you it's been 80% of the time that those have not worked out. So my very first hire, it's, and I feel horrible right now. I can't remember her name and I feel so bad about that. And she was a great employee too. And we just lucked out with her. Like right away, one of the first people we hired, and she was a phenomenal employee. But then like how many programmers we went through, how many support people we went through. And then that's a big thing too. When you find someone that all of a sudden you're one of the biggest challenges I have is finding people that can keep up with how I talk. So I have a very different mind where, I have to tell stories. So I go around in this circle. It's just how my mind works. And to me, I'm connecting all the dots and I always come back around to close the circle. However, for people that are listening to me, especially when I'm explaining, a process that's just in my mind, they're like looking at me like deer to headlights. So when you find someone that all of a sudden gets you, man, you protect that. That's what you pay them more. You treat them well, you give them extra perks, and that's worked for me well. And that's, I'm surrounded right now with a very loyal, powerful group of people, and it's very good.
Totally agree. I mean, maintaining people that you just love working with is so important. That turnover just kills you. We were talking before, and you said you use freelancers a lot, and you also have employees in the U.S. How do you complement your U.S. team with people, freelancers from all over the world?
So you, first of all, you have to have good management. That was one thing that we've struggled with over the years, is trying to move too fast, but not having good management in place, because everybody wants autonomy, but not everyone should have autonomy. And autonomy has different levels too. I don't mean it that way. But, oftentimes when we made a big mistake when we first opened our office, said like, you're autonomous, come in when you want and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, oh my God, that's why you don't do this stuff. So we're reading books about Google and Facebook and Amazon and all these things of how they run things. Well, they have billions of dollars in VC funded capital. They have all this extra stuff where they can hire the best managers, all this stuff to make sure that happens. When you're sitting there on a bootstrap budget trying to finance your own company, autonomy is extremely dangerous out of the gate. You've got to give them strict rules. You've got to give them strict guidelines. I look at it as kind of like the bumpers in a bowling game. Like, there's nothing wrong with that at first. Your goal is to get all those pins down. So, like, I don't care at the end of the day if you use bumpers or not. So, like, you want to give them as strict guidelines as you possibly can and follow up with them. Always close the loop with them. Where are you with this? Don't, it's your business. So a huge word, due diligence. Like, at the end of the day, there's nobody else responsible for your business than you. So stop making excuses why it's everyone else's fault. You need to own your business. You need to be the one that you are the only reason this company is going to succeed. And so you've got to be able to lead it the proper way. And so when you're hiring people, it's such a critical role. You got to make sure that, if you have outsourcers, and we've gone just recently completely work from home as well from our company. And you couldn't do that right away, because that's essentially now like we're using outsourcers for everything in a way. So people are actually employees in the company, but we have management in place with KPIs that they have to follow. So we hold all those people accountable. We have managers that manage the outsourcers so that they're accountable. We treat them all just like they're employees in the company. And we just really make sure that we understand what are the metrics that we're fighting for, what does success look like, what does failure look like, and how do we go from there. And a huge, if I could give anyone one huge tip, it's when you hire someone, the tough questions to ask are, first of all, in 90 days, what does success look like if this person is successful? What does failure look like, and what can go wrong? You want to ask those questions, because then the next question is, what do you do when things go wrong? Because the last thing you want to do is hire someone, then 90 days be in and sitting there going, I wonder if they're actually achieving results, finding out you've just spent 3 months paying someone's salary that hasn't done anything. So by addressing those issues right away, okay, here we are at the 90-day mark. We said if this, and this happened, this person is to be let go, and you do it. And you've got to fire fast and hire slow. It's when someone comes in, and when I say fire fast, you might have heard that before, I'm sure you have, but it's not about, you're done. It's about making sure that you understand, like, okay, first of all, is it this person's fault? Because if I hire someone and I give them no direction, nothing whatsoever, and they're just floundering, trying stuff, that's my fault. As the company owner, like, I need to make sure I'm setting everyone up for success. But if I do hire this person and they've had all of this stuff, and then you look at it, it's like, you're just not getting the results I need, you got to make those decisions. So it's really important to do that. And another real important tip about hiring is, to me, performance versus culture. So when you hire someone and they're a great rock star, but if they're an ass, like if they're just someone that constantly is causing issue, is constantly causing, if they're actually more dangerous as a good employee, as a good performer with an attitude than a bad performer with the attitude. Because what happens is everyone else in the company starts looking at, look at this person, they're smart, they must know what they're talking about. So you want to be really careful with that. It's called the Welch chart. So it basically is just a square, and in the line in the middle, you've got performance, and then up and down, you've got more or less behaviors. And it talks about if you're low on performance, you can get coached to be better. So if I'm just, say, poor at writing this article, well, let me teach you how to write this article better. But if you're a great article writer, but you're just like miserable, constantly causing issues, constantly like causing drama, there's no coaching for that. That's who that person is. That's what I really believe. And at first, I've always been that I believe in everyone. Everyone can, succeed. I want to give everyone a second chance. Life and business are different. Like with business, it's like this money's coming out of my pocket. I didn't hire you. The job description did not say, I will take 9 months to turn you into a good performer. It's like, no, I'm hiring you to be an asset as soon as possible. So you've really got to get strict on those focuses. It's like, when I'm hiring this person, what's failure look like? What are we going to do if there's failure? What's success look like? What are we going to do if there's success? And what's a realistic timeline? And then sit with the person, make sure everything's clear so there's no surprises on their end too. So they're not sitting there 3 months from now, what? Why are you firing me? I didn't know I was supposed to achieve these things. So good communication.
I love it. That was a lot of great info. Let's talk about Amazon sellers. I know the Amazing Selling Machine has helped tons of sellers. You like helping sellers grow. Let's talk about hiring for Amazon sellers. What do you recommend doing there? What should the Amazon seller do to really scale their business?
So the first thing you want to do is you want to get one of these. You want to get a notepad. I don't care if you want to use just a pad. Like I've got pads of paper all over the place here. I'm constantly writing stuff down. But you want to journal your activity. So if you're sitting there, like let's say you're running a business and there's different phases. Initially, you need to do as much as possible yourself, because you need to understand what it is you're doing. And then once you've kind of got some things going, you've got your product up on Amazon and you're starting to ramp up, then you want to figure out, okay, am I running my business or leading my business? And if you don't know the answer, the best thing to do is journal. And you don't have to journal forever. What I recommend is 2 to 3 weeks, and every day what you're doing is put a little alarm on, and every few hours when the alarm goes off, just in bullet point, just write what you focused on with how much time you think you focused on it. You can buy tools. You can do this every hour. You're not going to do it every hour, even if you do it once a day. But then what happens is you have this list on your page, and what you do is you go back over it with a highlighter. This is what I recommend. So I pick a red highlighter, and I highlight everything that is wasting money. So if my goal is to run $1 million a year business, let's say I'm someone starting out, and I want to be in a year generated $1 million a year. That means that I have to be earning $3,300 a day for my business. That means the work I put in has to equal to $3,300 a day. And the way I'm trying to get you to think about it is because think about it, this is your salary. That's what you're getting paid on. So you need to be focusing on tasks that are essentially paying you about $400 an hour. So if you're doing $400 an hour tasks in your business, then you're focusing on the right thing. So what are you focusing on? Wait, I just spent 50 minutes on Facebook. Red flag, I can't be doing that. I just spent 2 hours trying to tweak an image that really isn't going to make a difference in my business. Red flag that. And you start identifying, first of all, the things that you need to just cut. Just like stop doing that crap. That stuff is going to destroy your business. Stop doing it. And then what I do is I take my yellow highlighter and I start looking at the things that need to get done in the business, but I could pay someone minimum wage kind of thing to be able to do it. Overseas, you can get for $7 an hour, you can get some great talent to do a lot of those administrative daily things. So things like just checking customer support, getting stats for you, putting them into reports, making sure every day your listing is audited so that there's no changes, that customer reviews are replied to, that Amazon always has a response. You pick those things that it's like, okay, this is something I can hire for $10 an hour. So I'm going to start making a list of all of these things that I've done over the last few weeks and segmenting them. So now I'm creating a job. So now I realize, okay, with what I'm focusing on, if I can get rid of this stuff, it's going to save me 2 hours a day. So that means I can hire someone now. I have about 2 hours a day of work. With me doing it, it's probably going to take them twice as long at first. So I'm going to budget to hire someone for 4 hours a day. to do all this stuff for the next little bit. So the idea is, while they're learning to do that stuff at the 4 hours a day, chances are within about a month, they'll be doing it in about 2 hours a day, but you'll have identified more things to start putting on their plate. The big thing I recommend, though, so like whether it be any business, but specifically Amazon right now that we're focusing on, is that you really understand it. Don't think you can hire someone and say, oh, I know I have to run sponsored ads, so I'm just going to hire someone to run them. Especially if it's any paid advertising, that's just suicide. You know, when you're paying advertising and think you can just hire someone to magically do it, that won't work out. So you really want to also prioritize those things. Like make sure that the initial tasks you're handling are things that because you're still learning as well, that are going to free you up. So now I've got 2 hours extra a day. I can start focusing on sponsored ad now and start really learning it, so I can get to a point like, now I understand sponsored ads. Now I can start hiring people to manage it because I know what to look for. Is that a good enough answer?
That was a fantastic answer. And I got one last question, and we really appreciate you coming on. Where do you see Amazon going? You see a lot of people saying that it's getting saturated, that now is not a good time to get in. Let's hear your thoughts on whether now is a good time to sell on Amazon.
Yeah, so, you know, it's so funny. You just have to read stats. Like, just go on Google and say Amazon growth, e-commerce growth, growth of people buying online, growth of Amazon share for e-commerce. Like, just do yourself a favor and research those if you're having any doubt that now's an awesome time to get on Amazon. Like, there's no doubt, you know, like when I first got on Amazon in 2012, within 4 months, I was doing $200,000 a month with over $100,000 a month of profit. You know how? Because Dr. Oz suddenly started talking about raspberry ketone drops, and I got in, my first product was raspberry ketone drops, so it just exploded. You know, and it's one of those stories that it's like, wow, I was doing all these other things. I get on Amazon, it just explodes. But what it did for me at that time, it was a different animal. Amazon was very different. It wasn't easier, because at the same time, I was getting attacked day in and day out with fake reviews, hijackers on my products, those kind of things. Well, now, hijacking is a lot harder. Things like that, Amazon has really cleaned up. There's a lot more products on Amazon. However, there's also way more people shopping on Amazon. When I started, so man, when you started, they were doing like 30, not even, like they were like $20 billion. When I started, they're at 70 billion. Now they're over $300 billion a year. And that's revenue of people buying from Amazon. Now, yeah, Amazon also has their other businesses, but 60% of their income comes from product sales. And the majority, and a huge percentage of that comes from third-party sellers. More people are buying online. They say out of millennials, I think it was 3% of millennials do not use Amazon. 3%. And so that just tells you, so imagine like the next generation after millennials, like they're just growing up. Amazon is now a word for them. It's a verb. You know, it's kind of like, did you Google that? So they know just to go to Amazon. Amazon gives you one-day shipments. And you think of it, like every product you can buy is still not on Amazon. More and more people are going to Amazon. And so the amount of people going to Amazon and the amount of options for you to be able to sell on Amazon is continuing to grow. And what's different about Amazon, sometimes people get into the mindset of kind of like how Google was. Like if you're not on page one, position one, you're not winning. That's not true at all. You could be on like the bottom of page one and still doing like $30,000 a month on a product. Like there's so many opportunities. For people that are saying like it's too late, well, what is your option? You know, like I guess I don't understand that. Like you've got this platform that you can make millions of dollars selling on that's proven over and over again, but you're putting up all these roadblocks without even like trying. So Robert Kiyosaki, he was a big influence on me back when I first read his book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And he can be a little blunt. He can say, you know, that's loser talk. You're being a loser if you think about that. And I don't like saying it like that, but at the same time, that's how I feel. You know, like if you're sitting there, I've taught so many people that, and you get those odd people that all of a sudden say, I don't think it's going to work that way. I'm going to do it this way. And they fail. And you're like, well, what? You know, like why do you put up these roadblocks? Why don't you follow a system? So when people sign up for Amazing Sell Machine, I always say just follow the system. follow the system. You're investing this money. We're putting our reputation on the line. Follow the system and it'll work for you. When you don't follow the system, your question is why? So then when I look at people that sit there and say, oh, it's too risky, it's like, first of all, you're probably not set up to be an entrepreneur. Because if you're sitting there putting all these roadblocks up, being entrepreneurs, it's a lot of work. Like, don't get me wrong, I love the freedom. I can travel all over the world. I'm going to Europe next month for a full month. We're a complete work from home company now. It's absolutely phenomenal. So it's great that way, but I work a lot of hours because I love it, but I'm passionate about it. And you're going to work a lot of hours. The other thing is, as the owner of your company, you're responsible for everything. So that means that you're not, when you're a manager, you're just responsible for your little section. You don't make decisions that can bankrupt a whole company. As a business owner, you're responsible for everything. So if you're terrified constantly of making any move, because what if it's a failure? It's like, that's the whole point of being an entrepreneur. There's a quote that I love: do the things today that others are afraid of, so tomorrow you can do the things others only dream of. And that's what you've got to be like. With an entrepreneur, you've got to be able to face those fears. You don't want to be stupid about things, obviously, at the same time. But when you look at Amazon, like, where's your logic coming from? Where do you see that? Oh, there's too many people selling on Amazon. Well, then use that and look, okay, how many people are selling on Amazon? How many people are buying on Amazon? What are the options that I have here? And you'll see, like, Amazon is just huge. There's so much potential. So in summary, for anyone asking that question, I think it's ridiculous. I think Amazon is just as good as any time to get started. And in fact, a lot of ways it's better because there's a lot more rules put in place. But the only thing I want to remind people is there's no such thing as a get-rich-quick thing. This is about building a real business. You're leveraging Amazon to be able to build your own brand of products. So that's something else to think about. This is never about building an Amazon business. It's never about just building this one business that relies totally on Amazon. It's about building a brand. And where is the best place to sell your brand? Where is the best place to launch your brand? On Amazon. Because we know brick and mortar stores, it's the apocalypse for them. They're closing left, right, and center. If you build your own e-commerce store, good luck with trying to drive traffic to it, get people to notice it. When you start out on Amazon, you're leveraging Amazon's huge traffic, huge brand name, huge shopping cart, all of those kind of things. And it's just a better way to go. And it's a fantastic opportunity. I mean, we still have so many students all the time thanking us all the time, just like hitting goals that they never dreamed they'd be able to. So, yeah.
That was very well said. Jason, thanks so much for coming on. Where can people find out more about you, find out more about Amazing, and what are you most excited about for the rest of the year?
Well, right now, what I'm most excited about is SellerCon coming up in June 21st, 22nd, 23rd in Las Vegas at the MGM Grand. It is our big Amazon event. We're going to have thousands of people there. We're going to John Mackey from Whole Foods, Dave Asprey from Bulletproof. We've got the CEO owner of Spanx. We've got Robert Kiyosaki going there. People like Ezra Firestone, Ryan Moran, like just tons and tons of top level people, and this is something I'm very proud of our students that have gone to SellerCon, to our students that haven't. The SellerCon attendees of our students, 250% more likely to be between 1 to 12 million a year. Wow. It really attracts successful people. It really shows that you're really into this game. So I encourage, if you're an Amazon seller, check out SellerCon. And Amazing Selling Machine. If you're looking to start on Amazon, check out Amazing Selling Machine, or just check us out at amazing.com. That's our main company.
Sounds great. And I'll see you at SellerCon, hopefully. And I really appreciate you coming on.
Awesome to be here. Take care.
Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Did you enjoy this content? If so, click like, leave us a comment, and subscribe to our channel so we can continue bringing you great content all about hiring.